What time is it? It's the exact same time as when you asked earlier, and it'll be the exact same time when you ask later. There is no time here!
Oh, but what if this is much darker than you think? Hey guys, it's the Lyoko Gem, and welcome to another video. Now, I wasn't planning to make a Sonic theory anytime soon, but as soon as this came to mind, I knew I had to make it immediately. Now, if you've been in the fandom at any point since 2011, you've probably heard the question of, how did the Eggmen escape from the white space? It's a question that will probably never, ever be answered by Sega, but I have a theory that might potentially answer that. But first, to recap, Generations happened, and we had the confrontation with the Time Eater. That's all good. Sonic and Sonic went super and defeated Eggman and the Time Eater, and the Sonics and all their friends ended up at their birthday party. But what about the Eggmen? Well, they ended up trapped in the white world. We don't really see how or why, but modern Eggman appears as if nothing happened to him in Lost World, and the same can be said of Classic in Sonic Mania. So, how exactly did they escape? Well, what if I told you that they never did? What if they eventually died in the white world thanks to nature taking its course for the two of them, with no food or water and their bodies exhausted, and they just didn't make it out? But if they died in this void, then who are the two Eggmen we see in Lost World, Mania, and Forces? Well, they are the same Eggmen, but they also aren't. Not that this is another timeline, because it is in fact the original timeline. You see, here's what happened. The Eggmen died in the white space, but time, space, chaos, or whatever you want, had decided for one reason or another to place Eggman back into the timeline in an attempt to correct itself. This Eggman that has been inserted into the timeline would be both the original and also not. These would be entirely perfect clones created by the time stream, who have all the memories of Eggman up to the point where Supersonic defeated the Time Eater, where they probably ended up back in their lab or something. The reason that they have never mentioned white space is because even they have no memory of going there. Now technically, these would be alternate Eggmen, but in all intents and purposes, they would be the same ones, because who we are as people usually comes from the memories we have. With the memories of the originals, while the others died or were forever left to the white space, they'd essentially be the same. They are perfect clones created by time and space or chaos or whatever to have things go on as they would have before. These two don't know about ending up in white space and will never mention being in white space because it didn't happen to them. But now the question is, how and why would replicas of Eggman be inserted into the timeline to take the original's place? To be honest, I'm not entirely sure why. My best argument would be the universe wanting to make sure that things are set in motion as originally intended, and Eggman's important to that, so he's brought back. That idea of the timeline trying to correct itself. But as for the how, that's actually an easier story to tell than the why, because honestly, you've got me there. But Generations seemed to try and fix itself for the most part. After the events of Generations, it puts almost everyone back where they were right before the events of Generations. There's no explanation as to how this happens, they just appear. We can probably assume the same for the Sonics and Tails as well. They just reappeared where they previously were, which makes sense. It reverses the effects that the Time Eater had on things. Furthermore, we have seen Generations make things appear that shouldn't. Heck, one of those things are in the last scene that I mentioned, and that's Silver and Shadow appearing at Sonic's birthday party. If things were supposed to just revert back to the way they were, then Silver and Shadow would not have appeared when things went back to normal in Generations. They would have gone back to wherever they were before. The timeline does whatever it wants. Not only that, but another thing we've seen inserted into the timeline due to the events of Generations is the Phantom Ruby. We have reason to believe that the Phantom Ruby did not exist before Generations. While I'm aware of the timeline split for modern and classic Sonic, the point remains that it's likely that Generations put the Phantom Ruby into the timeline. The timeline has corrected itself to restore the Eggmen by creating perfect clones of them to take the place of the originals, as they either perished or wandered forever in the White World. These Eggmen were created as soon as Supersonic destroyed the Time Eater in Generations, and as such, their last memory is of the Time Eater's destruction. They have no idea that they are technically not the originals, and as such, they have continued on to do the things that they've done. But that's my theory. What do you think? Do you think I have something here, or am I just way off? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks so much for watching. If you like this video and want to hear more from the Lyoko Gem, then please like, subscribe, and follow my social media at Tumblr, Twitter, and Discord, all links below. But thanks so much for watching, and with all of that being said, this has been the Lyoko Gem. I'll warp and out.